Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Growth Class. And today we're diving into a sector that is notoriously noisy and overwhelming: skincare. Our guest today spent nearly a decade leading national accounts for some of the biggest CPG brands in the world, including Walmart and Amazon, but she saw a massive gap between what brands sell and what consumers actually need. So now she's the co founder and CEO of Vane, a beauty tech platform that's stripping away the guesswork through data driven personalized diagnostics. So please welcome Vanessa Cancio. Is it
Ah,
Cancio or Cancio?
Cancio. No, you said it perfectly.
You're Italian, correct?
No, I'm Colombian Cuban, but the last name is from northern Spain, from Asturias.
Ah, I
Yeah,
think
but I
in,
get that a lot up here. Up here, everyone thinks I'm either Italian or Greek.
yeah, yeah. Well, Italian, I think it would be Cancio.
You're right, exactly. So what it's funny because when I was living in Dallas, no one ever said that, and then I moved to New York, and all of a sudden I'm like, where did that come from? I was like, oh, it's because people think I'm Italian. That's it. So, but no, you said it perfectly. Thank you.
Especially down in Mulberry Street, everybody will be calling you Cancio. Ah,
Hmm.
Vanessa Cancio.
Yes, exactly, exactly.
So why don't you take us back a little bit into your history, your background, and let's have an understanding of who you are, what you've done, and then what you're trying to do with Vane. Because I know you're going through sort of a pivot from when we spoke. You started
Yeah.
out doing it one way, and I think that you're pivoting, which I think is a brilliant way to do it. So,
Thank you. Yeah. So my background is all in marketing, sales and marketing. So with specifically within the consumer world, more in food and bev. So I started out my career at PepsiCo on the brand side, doing just as a marketing analyst, which at first I didn't want to do all the numbers, but it's actually proven to be some of the most helpful skills that I've had in understanding how businesses work and the levers to pull. So I did that for about 3 years, and towards the end of that, I was on the closer to the retailer side, so doing shopper marketing. But I knew that I wanted, as much as I was learning and enjoying my time there, I knew that I wanted to get a little bit closer to the digital side of marketing and
yeah,
sales, and knowing, okay, that's kind of this is circa 2018, 2019, and so I was like, I want to get closer to that. That's like, a lot of D2C companies were blowing up. Um, and so I got recruited to Anheuser-Busch to lead their Walmart e-com account nationwide. So I did that, which was like my dream job at the point, and that moved me from Dallas to New York. I remember thinking, I was like, I don't even know where I go from here. This was my dream job. Like, there's nothing else. Like, I'm good. And so it was incredible. But I did that for about 2 years and then moved on to lead Amazon and GoPuff, which was quite an experience because within 2 months of handling those accounts, they both doubled in size. Amazon went from just being online to then opening 9 Amazon Fresh stores, like brick and mortar stores, and then GoPuff had primarily just been online, and then they acquired Liquor Barn in Kentucky and then Bevmo in California. So they doubled in size and had brick and mortar overnight.
yeah.
So it was, yeah, and doing the omni-channel experience was incredible. And so and by then I had already had the idea for Vane, and really like kind of from my own personal experience of just being frustrated with the skincare industry and the number of options and being so overwhelmed with ads and whatnot. And it was because I was about 25, 26 this during the pandemic, and I started breaking out like crazy, all on my chin. And like looking back now is clearly very hormonal, but it was weird because I had never really dealt with acne in high school. And I'm like, wait, I'm a full blown adult. Why am I dealing with acne now? And so I freaked out. And thank God, everyone was wearing masks, or I could just put like some filter on Zoom or something. But I started really looking into it of like, okay, what product should I be using? What brands, are good for me? And I would spend hours doing research and Googling. And at that point, I got on TikTok, like most people during COVID. And I realized that all the comments on TikTok were asking the same questions I was asking. And so it
Right.
said, okay, great. Then something needs to happen here. Except at that point, I loved my job. And so I was like, that's a great idea. On to the side. Fast forward a few years, say 3 years, 3 or 4 years, the idea wouldn't leave me alone. And I had yet to see a solution in the market. So I was like, okay, this is something that I need to kind of just solve. And at that point, I had always wanted to start my own company. I just was waiting for the right idea. My dad's an entrepreneur as well, so I grew up around that. But I knew how important it is to be passionate about what you're building because the journey is so hard. You have to really believe in it. So I was like, all right, if this idea hasn't left me alone for about 3 years and it's still bothering me, I think we should probably see this one out. And so fast forward, left Anheuser-Busch, started the company, had a lot of ups and downs, actually built an MVP, had a co-founder breakup, built an MVP after a small friends and family round. And actually within the last month and a half, actually, since I think we last spoke, we did away with that MVP and actually launched our app. So we have a brand new app with our pivot. So what we used to be was essentially a platform that used AI to connect people to the right skincare products based on their skin type and skin issues. What we are now, what happened was that we realized people really loved the recommendation engine, but they didn't want to have to buy a new product every single time they came to Vane. And that's understandable. They wanted to understand, okay, I bought these products. Now, how are they actually working for me over time? So my co-founder and I, were like, okay, well, why don't we make a tracker? Why don't we make a tracker? And that'll help people understand how those products are working for them. And then, of course, as we were building it out, we're like, well, we want to put this and put that. And we were like, you know what? We've been putting this off of building an app. This is the time. Let's do it. And we actually, with that build of the app, completely pivoted to a skin health tracker from a platform, from like a marketplace to a skin health tracker. And so, yeah, that's where we are now. We just applied to the Apple Store last week. Already got rejected once, which we love that, but we resubmitted again. So yeah, that's where we are, and that's how we got here.
You got rejected from the Apple Store once? Is that what you said? So, yeah, for the app, right?
Yes, for the app.
Yeah, most people put it on Google Play first and work out the kinks because it's more difficult to be on Apple than it is on the Google Play Store because we do a lot of app work we do a lot of marketing for apps and stuff. And yeah, it's always been that way. People put it on the Google Play Store first, work out the kinks, get it right, and then put it on Apple because Apple is a little bit more difficult. And then if you can get it on Google Play and you get it working on Google Play, then Apple's more apt to
actually accept it.
Yeah.
There we go. Well, I'll have to tell Saranya that. I'll have to tell my co-founder that.
Yeah. It's a pain in the neck, you know. You have to. Yeah, they really.
They make it difficult.
They go through every part of it, and a lot of it has to do with data collection and how you're collecting and what you're doing with that data, and you know that type of stuff, and
Totally.
where they get access to it. So yeah, it's an interesting business. I think having been in the beauty business for many years, I think that it's always been an issue, and where do people go to get the information? And generally, when a brand comes out, they do a lot of content focused around their brand and their products, not necessarily the landscape. So that's where the problem becomes, because people can get a lot of information about a brand, but not necessarily the overall landscape.
Or like the problem, right? Because it's not really focused on you as an individual. To your point, it's focused on the brand and just the benefits that the brand can do for you.
Yeah.
And they all start to sound the same, where it's like, okay, every brand is telling me they can do the same thing. Which one do I actually buy? Which one's worth the money? Are the more expensive ones better because they're more expensive, or can I get away with something cheaper and it works just as well?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, exactly. It's I think that like Glossier, what was her name? Emily. I think started out because it was a side gig for her. She was working. She would
She was
come home.
blogging.
Yeah, and she would talk about beauty and skincare and things like that. And she was objective. And then she came out with her own product line. But after I think she had like 1 million followers.
Yeah, she had a ton.
Yeah, and then when she launched, she had a built-in market. It was great. It was fantastic. So I think she did it the right way. But I do think that it's really tough for people. Again, the weird thing is I have 4 daughters and a wife, and it's funny because I was in the beauty business for so long. We were a natural brand, And so we're very, I've always been, because we had to maintain, we had a partner, Carol Alt, and she was a raw foodist, and she had written books on the raw food, and she lived the raw food lifestyle. So she was very, very picky about the ingredients. And she was on the sales and marketing side because we launched on the shopping channel. So she was the face of the brand, but she was also an owner. But I had to be the one figuring out like the ingredients and coming
Yeah.
up with something new and understanding it. So I got really good at it. And having all these girls in my life, they all come to me for advice before they buy beauty products about what they
I
should
would
do.
too. I would too. They have a built-in expert at home. It's great.
I know. And it's just so funny, especially when they tell their friends at college and stuff, "Oh, I can't get that until I talk to Phil about it." And it's hysterical
Awesome.
because they all sit there going, "What?"
Like,
Oh,
who's
yeah,
Bill?
who knows? Well, they all call me Phil.
Oh, that's
Everyone
awesome.
calls me Phil. As soon as they got to be 18, they all started calling me Phil.
It's like a rite of passage.
Yeah, yeah. Well, when they don't, not at home, but when they talk to their friends, they all call
Yeah.
me. It's
That's
funny.
so funny. That's
It
awesome.
is. It is funny. You know. But no, I agree with you. I think that having some sort of and I think AI lends itself to that because it can answer the questions that people need. You
Oh,
know.
100%. And I think, my co-founder can speak to this a lot better than I can, being that she's what I say that she's the brain and I'm the personality hire. Mostly just because her background is all within the data side. And she's currently about to finish getting her PhD in AI at Carnegie Mellon. So she's the one that's actually coding it all, building the algorithms for the AI model. Exactly to your point, right? It's like, I think when I first had the idea, there was no real way to do it other than matching and doing some type of code in the back. But AI in this is 2021, 2022, was not really as big of a thing as it is now. We weren't using it in
No.
our day-to-day life as it is now. It wasn't as big of a thing. We were still on Web3, on crypto. So it's like, NFTs and whatnot back then versus, which didn't really quite pan out the way everyone thought. But with how much technology has advanced, especially within AI recently, it's been incredible of what we can do. So for example, my co-founder had never built an app before. She's coded, she knows how to do that, but she had never actually built an app before. And she was able to vibe code it. And it started from like, oh, I don't know how long it's going to take me to build this app. So we were like, all right, what are all the other contingencies, right? Like, what do we need to be doing in order to just like move forward? And then all of a sudden, over a weekend, she had gone on a trip, and on the plane ride, I got back and she literally had just like sent me this screen recording of an app. And I go, cool, what app is that? She was like, ours. I was like, what? What? Like, how did that happen? And she literally built it just based off of vibe coding and, obviously prompting AI in the right way. And she swears by Claude. To her, if you ask her, she goes, I don't trust any other AI to be building this with me other than Claude.
Yeah.
But it's incredible. I don't think we would have been able to do this a year ago, even to this extent.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that you know the LLMs have been out for a lot longer. People started using them around 2019, 2020. I remember there was I can't remember the name of it, but it was one of the earlier ones before before OpenAI came out with ChatGPT. But and people were like writing content with it, which was fine, right?
Yeah.
But there was so much more to it, and the thing that drives me insane is we started using it about 7 years ago in our company, and it took us and building workflows and building agents and things, and to try and figure out how to make things more efficient, how to save time, how to save money, not necessarily get rid of people. What's the right use of AI for
Yeah.
marketing and advertising and things like that? And it took us really 3 years of work to figure out how to implement agents and workflows that actually are meaningful, that actually do something positive to a business, right? And now everybody who's like read an article about AI is an expert in it, and it drives me insane because I sit there, people contact me all the time on LinkedIn and email. We can build agents for you that'll save you millions of dollars, and you go, you look at their background, it's like they've been, 6 months ago they were working in an Arby's and now they're
Yeah.
all from an AI agent expert. And I'm like, it took us 3 years, but you figured it out in 6 months.
Yeah.
It just it doesn't work that way. So it drives me insane. But yeah,
No.
AI is a great tool. I think, I agree with your partner. Claude is much more, I think it's a much better tool. I think from what we see, ChatGPT is moving in a different direction. They're going to move into the direction of advertising
Hmm.
and search for brands,
Yeah.
so it'll be like Google.
Yep.
Um, but Claude is moving in the direction of solving problems.
It's drastically different how I use them. I use chat as more of like just to bounce ideas off of, where I'm like more personal of like, oh, I'm thinking of this. What do you think? And it's kind of goes back and forth versus Claude. I actually work where I have my projects. I have, something of just even automating things of my investor updates, some of like my LinkedIn updates where I'm like, I don't have time to fully write this out, but I've written these articles, take this, my tone of voice, my personality, and this is what I want you to talk about because these are the things we've done. And I can go back and edit it and make it sound more like me. But it helps me move 10 times faster. And especially things that like an investor update that has more of a formula, right? Where it's like, okay, this is something that I don't need to be spending so much time on, but these are the updates. Can you just pull it together for me and I'll review and edit and send out? But it's been great. Not only as like, co-working, but also from a product perspective.
So, what do you think your biggest obstacle to growth is, or let's say the biggest challenge to getting people uh, to use your product is?
I think right now it's visibility and awareness is really like our biggest thing right now. So for example, we actually just closed on a partner this morning for our official launch. We're partnering with 3 different brands. And now in the app, you can do courses and essentially say like, you can do a 14-day course, a 21-day course with either a creator or a brand. That allows not only for the stickiness, but also allows us to co-brand and co-market with someone else. So that's what we have been doing, knowing that we're so small, we don't have the budget to be spending on paid ads the way that most companies can. So how else are we driving visibility, right?
Well, I don't think paid ads. We kind of discourage that with people. I mean, paid ads. You can't scale a business with paid ads. You'll go broke. And
Totally.
there's so many other opportunities out there today that we didn't have, 10 years ago that we have today, especially video on social media. So I think there's so many more ways to get this done than trying to use paid ads. I'm not an advocate. They're a support mechanism. They're not your driver.
Totally. But even from a support, right? We're like, okay, we have like our main assets. We don't have the budget to be driving that, right? So the way that we've been doing is partnering with brands, which we have we've closed one this morning. We're about to close another one on Friday. I'm very excited. And then there's a third one, a big one, which I'm not going to put into existence until it actually happens so that I don't jinx it. But I'm hoping, I'm crossing my fingers that it happens. And with creators. So one of my good friends from my PepsiCo days, he is a awesome marketer. He was a brand marketer at PepsiCo and then Boston Beer Company. And he then went on to become a full-time content creator. Obviously, he was building it on the side and then was able to sustain himself fully. But he knows how brands think, but also knows how to work it as a creator. So he's come on as our brand ambassador and as our advisor to help us grow and reach that audience that we wouldn't really be able to do naturally, or I don't have the experience in that aspect, right? Marketing's so different than social. Social is a beast on its own, where I think a
Sure.
lot of a lot of marketers used to just kind of file it under marketing versus now it's like, no, there's a whole other strategy. You need to actually understand all the different platforms, how those algorithms work, also the different audiences that you have on those. So we've brought him on board. He has an audience of over 200,000. So even having him talk about us, be posting how he's working with us. For example, with the launch, he's an athlete, so he's running the Boston Marathon. So we're planning, hopefully, if everything goes right with the App Store, we're trying to do more of like a bigger launch at the end of April, middle of April, end of April. But we're hoping that, okay, he's running the Boston Marathon. Everyone asks him, how do you train? What do you do for your skin? What do you wear? All these things. How do we then take advantage of that opportunity and say, okay, well, if you're already going to be talking about the Boston Marathon, then you should talk about recovery after the Boston Marathon. What are you doing after it? And that should include your skin. And so that's like our entire angle with him. And then we're doing something similar with those brands that have larger audiences than us. And it makes sense for them to partner with us. For example, this morning, the partner we closed on, they were like, actually, we keep hearing from consumers that they want to understand how the products are working for them over time. And so we were about to build our own tracker, but this is amazing because you guys have it. And we're like, yeah, and we can partner together on it. So it's just like good timing. But yeah, we're really trying to leverage what we can in order to get our name out there and just get users onto the platform.
Yeah, that's great. It's absolutely a challenge today in some ways, to get visibility. But at the same time, if you have something that's completely different and, there's no challenger out there, then it's actually not as difficult. It's the people that struggle are the ones that are just selling the same old, same old.
Right.
And if you're just selling the same old, you just get lost in the conversation. Nobody cares.
Right. Well, and that's why we want to be different. All of our marketing pillars are very much about, like, the first one is about shifting skin from beauty to health, right? So like, how do we actually rethink it? Or also destigmatizing skincare, where like a lot of men are getting into skincare more now than ever because they realize that it is part of health. But there's still some feelings. Whenever I talk to men and do customer calls, it's always like, well, I just, girls have been doing it for so much longer. And I'm like, well, yeah, our society allows girls to do it for so much longer. I remember being in middle school and looking at like a Teen Vogue or like, whatever, a Cosmopolitan, and looking at like, what's the latest skincare trend, versus guys aren't getting into it until their 20s, maybe, if that, more 30s, when they start seeing the first signs of aging. And they're like, oh my God, I don't want to, age badly. Let me start taking care of myself. And so we're trying to also say, okay, how do we not only position skin care as health, but also destigmatize it and make people feel more comfortable, both men and women, to use skincare?
Yeah, I think that's going to be a tough one. We were in the men's skincare business for a long time, and because we were in the shaving business, but really what we were selling was, the ultimate shave and the routine. I didn't care so much about the razor as much as I did about all the other stuff. And we had another brand called Men's Zone, which was more of a drugstore type brand. But it's tough to get that, even for shaving, to get a guy to care. Like when a guy is in high school and he starts to grow a little bit of hair, he wants to shave. But then he loses that after about a year. Like, okay, that's a pain in the ass, so I'm just going to let it go. And, it's not until then they shave every once in a while and their girlfriend tells them to shave and, things like that happen. But it's not until they're 28 years old where they get serious about looking good every day. And that's going to be a tough one to overcome because, and also they don't have the money and they don't really value it, right? A guy who's still in college is not going to take, $20 and buy skincare when he could go out and buy a case of beer.
No, totally. I think that's also like when we think about our audience is a little bit older. So we have, I would say it's varied. So the brand that we closed on this morning is actually a tween skincare brand, which is really cool. And it's all about like how tweens want to get into skincare, but a lot of the products are really harsh for their skin. So that makes sense. But the other ones that we're partnering with are geared towards, I'm not going to say older, but just like, I would say late 20s to like late 30s, early 40s, where you start, to your point, one, caring, and two, having the money to be able to care, right? Because you can care about something, but if you don't have the disposable income to actually do anything about it, then it doesn't matter. So no, we've definitely have realized that, because when we were doing the marketplace, we actually were targeting college kids. And we're like, oh, that's the first time that they're leaving their house and making the decisions on their own, and they don't have a huge budget, so that means that they need to be more careful about what they're buying. We realized over a few months, one, college kids don't have the budget to really pay for anything, so they just want anything that's free. And two, They look good, so they don't care that much. So they're not going to spend money on something if they don't need to your point, if they can just go and buy a case of beer. And then third, they care about what's ever trendy. They just want to do what's cool. So the information side of it for your own skincare type, they're like, I don't care what my skincare type is. Like, my skin looks great. Like, I don't need that yet, which it makes sense. And that's where we were like, okay, we need to come back to the drawing board and let's see who's actually interacting with us.
Yeah. Well, guys, see, with young women, it's different because, like you said, they look at Teen Vogue, they watch, influencers, so they get the push for skincare and makeup and cosmetics, and people start talking about, there's a million YouTube channels for makeup artists, and
Yeah,
talking about the good, the bad, but not so much for guys. And until you start getting sports figures that they look up to, right? Until you start getting sports figures to start saying, I moisturize, or I use this, or I use that, you're not gonna get them any earlier, and you're better off sort of honing in on that age group where you're gonna get them, right? Because it's true. It's just funny when you look at it as a graph, and I'm going back to sort of shaving, right?
Yeah,
because when people used to say to us, who's your target customer? And they expect you to say, well, everybody shaves, so everybody's our target customer. But I used to say, no, it's 28 to 45, because below that, they don't care. They're not going to change their routine. And so, like, we had, pre-shave, post-shave, we had all these great things. They just don't care. You get a very small percentage. Mom buys them something for a stocking stuffer, maybe, but they never rebuy it. And over 45, those people are set in their ways. Mm-hmm. They're not going to change.
They haven't done it. They're not going to.
Yeah, guy's been using a 3-blade razor for 20 years, and he's been using, Gillette foamy shave cream. He doesn't care. It's going to be hard to change him. But that 28 to 45, those guys are ripe for changing. And because we never sold foamy shave cream, we sold a moisturizing shave cream that was, great for the face. Both one for men, one for women, and same thing with aftershave and all that. So it was more like Cremo and what those guys were doing, and just that we sold razors on top of it. So the point is, like, and then you got to go into the market of where you have the best chance of converting those people. And then as time goes on, they'll trickle down, because if you have a guy who's 25, 26, 27, he starts using skincare, and he's got a brother who's 22, and the brother's like, what are you using? And then all of a sudden, it'll start trickling down. But it's really amazing, because when you go through the history of sort of men's grooming, mm-hmm. right, and you start getting into, women have always groomed. It's always been that way, right? There's been pressure, societal pressure, all that stuff. But men never had that societal pressure. But in the 70s, because guys were just using like single blade razors, right? Then in the 70s, you had Joe Namath, a professional football player, talking about, his shave cream and all that. All of a sudden, men's products for shaving started to spike. Yeah. And then when you look at what Old Spice did, they started that about 15 or 20 years ago. I mean, that sort of really expanded the whole men's thing. Right. And then you had Axe jumping in there, and you had all those other ones, and you started to get this younger audience. So, but it was mostly deodorant and things like that. But, so I think you're right. It's just going to take a little bit longer to get those younger guys.
Totally. And that's why it's like, okay, well, then who does it make sense to partner with? Right. And like to get those guys. And I don't think when we think of like who our target audience is, the guys are secondary. The women are primary, and then it's like, okay, we'll get some of the boyfriends, the husbands that way, because if you ask them, a lot of guys are just using whatever their girlfriend, sister, wife tells them to use. So I'm like, all right, well, that's one way to get them. And then the other way is, all right, well, to your point, when you see a football player or someone that you look up to all of a sudden using these things and caring, you feel like, oh, I should be caring about that as well. So we've even explored of how to partner with a few athletes. And that's further down the road, one thing at a time. But
Yeah, yeah. No, no, no. That's the right thing to do. Yeah, certainly women. Women are that's the primary
our bread and
audience.
butter, essentially.
But even for men, I was having this conversation with a person who runs a men's brand, and it's hysterical to me because you know women actually men do what women tell men do what women tell them to do.
Yep.
Women will say that shirt does not look good on you, and
Yep.
they'll
Go
buy them a
change.
new shirt. You need to buy this, you need to do this. That's if because if it were just up to men, they'd all dress sort of the same. We'd be in
Mhm.
shorts and t-shirts all day long with
Yep.
sneakers. So it is funny how women influence the whole thing. So even moms are going to start influencing young men, and they still do. Like you know, I have one son, and my wife used to buy stuff for him to use, and still does. And even though he's out of college, but still does. But it's whether or not he uses it, or you
Right.
know what I mean. So, because they have to care, they have to actually get to a point. And he has his first serious girlfriend,
Oh,
and it's amazing. We laugh about it all the time because we say, his name in 2.0, say, his girlfriend has like totally changed
totally
him.
changed him.
Oh my God, it's amazing.
Oh, I
The way he
love
the way he dresses, the way he wears his hair, the way he talks, what the things he does. It's like we sit there going, all this time we've been telling him to do all these things. He doesn't care, but now,
now that a girl told him that he's
oh
interested in,
yeah, yeah,
a girl that
yeah.
he's interested in told him to do something, he's like, oh yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah, absolutely,
Oh, that's
absolutely.
so funny.
Yeah. Well, listen, we're I'm sorry, but we're almost out of time.
No,
This
all
one
good.
a little bit was a good conversation. Any last minute things you want to talk about? Your website, where can people find you? All those types of.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So people can find us at vanemarket.com, and then hopefully we will be in the App Store soon enough to download us. So TBD on that, but in the meantime, you can check us out on our website.
Excellent, excellent. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on. I think it was a great conversation. I love talking about beauty products and that whole industry. I think it's great. Yeah, my pleasure. And we'll see you next time.